What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fitness Simplified Podcast. I am your host, Joe Anklem, and today's guest is Dasha from fitwithdasha.com. Dasha is a nutrition and exercise consultant. She graduated from the top nutrition graduate program in the country, Tufts University's Friedman School. Her professors work for the USDA, making dietary guidelines for the USA, are primary stakeholders in U.S. nutrition policy, and often quoted in the New York Times. She's working right now publishing nutrition research while pursuing her internship to become a registered dietitian at one of the most competitive programs in the country with an acceptance rate that of Harvard. In today's conversation, we go over things that we often get asked about, myself as well as Dasha, about greens powders and their benefit and whether or not they're actually just a waste of money, probiotics, and how to actually prescribe yourself the right probiotic, and also a bit about intuitive eating as well as mindful eating. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one, and there's a ton of info jam-packed, so sit back and enjoy. I want to get into things first. I want to give people what they really want to know, and really the basic thing that people go to, right? When they're like, I want to be healthier. They want to do a cleanse, Dasha, right? Or they want to do the good old greens powders. So what do you have to say about the greens powders? Because this is the question I know you get asked about quite a bit on social media. I know you're always posting about it. People spend tons of money on it. Those things are not cheap. So what is kind of the positives of a green supplement? Is there any difference also between like a multivitamin? What are they all about? Kind of give us the rundown on that.
Absolutely. So I'm really glad that you're bringing this up because I literally get asked this question every single day of my life. And there's really no research to support that greens powders are going to do anything, especially in terms of gut health. Really nothing. Really in terms of any health. I really haven't seen any research published on this, but I want to explain the reasons why it's so iffy, and hopefully that'll help explain to your listeners why it's so controversial.
Perfect.
Yeah. So the first is acids and bases. So as you probably hopefully remember in like basic chemistry that you took in high school, there's acids and bases in compounds. And when we're digesting food, these compounds are exposed to both acidic and basic conditions. So what that means is that whatever we eat is transformed, whether it's in an acidic or a basic condition, as it digests through our bodies. And these all trigger chemical transformations. Now, when we talk about food that we normally eat, this is pretty well known, right? We know how it'll move through the body, whatever. However, when we take a powdered form of some sort of compound that is highly unstable, most likely, or we don't know how stable it is. We don't know how reactive it is to those acidic and basic conditions. So we really don't know how that chemical, first of all, is digesting and processing and transforming through our digestive tract. Now that's just acids and bases, okay?
Okay.
Now, additionally, we can talk about gut bacteria. Everyone loves this one. So gut bacteria, gut bacteria can transform compounds in a lot of different ways. So let's say that it does last through this compound, this powder lasts through the acidic and basic conditions, very stable. It survives just like whole food magic. Okay, well, now it reaches the gut. And these gut bacteria now can transform the compound in a lot of other ways. So let's say that it survived that, but well, how do you know that it's going to survive the gut bacteria? How do you know that it's still going to be a stable form? Considering these gut bacteria know and survive off of whole foods and the byproducts of these whole foods.
Wow.
So, okay. So now we got the acids and bases. Now we got the gut bacteria.
Yep.
Now let's talk about something called enterocytes.
Okay.
So enterocytes are the cells that line the gut lining. And how do we know that those have dedicated receptors and transporters for whatever compound has then been digested through the acids and bases, through the gut bacteria, how do we know that that receptor and transporter even exists? Our bodies have never been exposed to this sort of compound. So how do we know that we even have something that will bring it into our bloodstream?
Totally.
Okay, so now that's the third thing. And now let's assume, okay, it got through the acids and bases, it got through the gut bacteria, it got through the cell wall of the stomach lining, and it's been absorbed, and now it's in the bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, if it is absorbed, it's likely in such low concentrations at that point. You do remember you only took 1 scoop of this greens powder that has then been, right?
Well, I took Dasha, I actually took half of it because it tastes horrible. So I only took half. Yeah,
right?
I threw it up.
I threw it up. I threw half of it up. Literally. I literally get nauseous when I try and drink those things. I don't know how people do it. But anyway, so it's low in the bloodstream. And so if it's absorbed and it's in the bloodstream, it's in such low concentrations, most likely, because who knows if we even have those receptors, transporters bringing it into the bloodstream. And they're likely at such low quantities because they're not used very often. So it's in the blood, but then you do realize it has to be reabsorbed by the cell in order for it to function within a cell in the body to have whatever component that it has, right? So is there then again another receptor within that cell that's allowing this to happen?
Totally.
Who knows, right? Who knows?
Because there's no
really
research.
Don't.
Yep.
Right, there's no research. So I hope that kind of makes you visualize from like a first ingestion to gut bacteria to entering the cell walls and then being reabsorbed, how many things can really go wrong with a greens powder. Our bodies have never been exposed to this in all of our humanity, and now we've created this chemical quote unquote. We don't know what it is.
I was gonna say
at the end of the day.
I was gonna say, how do we even? And it probably just varies by company. How do they even get is it essentially similar to like how they're deriving these vitamins and minerals from like to like a multivitamin? Is it similar, or how is that even? Do we even know how they're deriving these vitamins and minerals?
It's pretty scary because supplements aren't regulated by the FDA. And that means like you really don't know what you're putting in your body. Even protein powders,
Totally.
like they have heavy metal toxicity, a lot of them, and a lot of really popular companies. I think I saw like Garden for Life, Orgain,
wow.
Quest had one that was up in the charts. If you just Google like heavy metal testing protein powder, it'll come up. But like those are protein powders of really well-known brands that a lot of people buy.
And trust.
Right, and trust. So it just goes to show like you have no idea, just like they have no idea what they're putting in your body because it's not regulated.
Well, and they're probably getting it, from like a distributor, like, like especially if they're a big company and it's like, who knows what they're doing. And it's like, they're always trying to obviously make more money because it's like, at the end of the day, they're trying to create more profit margin. And it's like, well, then it usually ends up cutting corners, unfortunately. And if there's nobody watching it, it's even scarier. That totally,
absolutely.
That totally makes sense. No, go ahead.
And these manufacturers aren't scientists, and the people who are buying from the manufacturers for these companies aren't scientists. So the manufacturers, I have friends who are in this industry and tell me they're like, yeah, and then the manufacturer, he just gave me these 2 studies on rats and so like we're good to go. And I was like, hold on, did you read the paper? Like, did you look through it? You're like, oh well, I don't know, it's good enough for me. And it's like, are you serious?
That's crazy.
Right?
It's crazy. Well, and I was gonna say, you don't have to say it, but that even like those companies, like they're stuff that people are buying. Like it's like, especially these like little niche companies or something where it's like literally some guy who like, he was like an online coach or he's whatever. And then he's like got a supplement company now. And it's like, like you said, I mean, yeah, maybe he's got like an advisor or something, I would hope, but like that really is, like, yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, it's just him creating a supplement. And it's like, wow, like, or like these people, it's like, here's my Reds powders, right? Or like, that's the new one. I don't know if you've seen that. There's the Reds powders now for your fruits and Great. Yeah, that's awesome. Sounds
Great.
awesome. So, okay,
Yeah.
I do have a question. So how does that differ from a multivitamin? Because I will tell you, I take a multivitamin every day. So if someone's like, hey, I'm trying to be healthier, would a multivitamin, like I know even if they're taking it
Hmm.
from your standpoint where you're going to be like, Joe, like you need to eat your whole foods first, right? That needs to be your baseline.
Hmm.
What if they're like, I eat that and I want the insurance policy, right? Like where I feel
Hmm.
better when I have the multivitamin, even just mentally, because I know I'm taking it.
Absolutely.
Does that
Yeah,
have,
absolutely.
how does that work? What do you say about that, and what's your stance on that?
I'm someone who says, first of all, if it's a fat soluble vitamin, such as vitamin A, D, E, or K, you first of all, you want to make sure you're tested for those, because those can be toxic to the body because they're stored in our fat cells. And if you overconsume, they don't get peed out, they get stored in our bodies. So make sure that you're not overdoing the fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, and make sure you just double check with your doctor too. You don't want to be taking excess amounts of certain micronutrients.
Okay.
However, what I will say is that for the general population, a multivitamin is a great, just as you said, insurance policy. Now, insurance policy, is that worth $40 a month for your
Totally.
pills that you may be peeing out? And then again, with the heavy metals, if you don't know if they're tested, it's up to you, you know?
Yep.
I'm someone who totally believes in multivitamin because we live in a day and age where convenience is a huge factor. I know I personally, like, do I get in all my vitamins with a fat source, with um, like equally spaced throughout the day or whatever? Like, you're
Hmm.
right, it is a great insurance policy just to make sure you got all your ducks in a row.
Totally. Okay. And for someone who might say, okay, you're just telling me about the greens powders, do we have those same receptors and the things you were mentioning as far as getting through to the point where we're actually absorbing it into the cell?
Yes.
Is that the
Yeah.
same? Is it like taking that chance as well?
Great question. So the vitamins, on the other hand, do have more research on them about specifically how they're digested and processed, and the types of vitamins, unless you're talking about methylated B vitamins, which you will have to specifically look for. And I can go into that. But basically, it's just if you have a certain gene, the MTHR gene, that prohibits you from methylating them. Long story short, you're probably, if you're not having an issue with your B vitamins, don't worry about it. But most of the vitamins on the market are made for your body to digest optimally, because remember, your doctor can prescribe you vitamins.
Okay. So
So
basically what you're
think
saying
about
about
it that way.
the vitamin B though, you're basically saying that there's certain people that won't be able to absorb a supplement vitamin B.
They'll need the extra help, so they'll need it to be methylated already because they
Okay.
don't have that ability. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can just, again, Amazon, you just type in methylated
I
B
see.
vitamin
It's
and
just a
it'll
different,
say,
I see.
right, it's just like kind of like a different, as we said earlier, the chemical transformations, it's just like a little bit different for those people.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I hear you.
Mhm.
I hear you. No, that totally makes sense. So essentially, it is just a little bit different when it comes to the multivitamins, just because one, we have research on that, and I guess does it matter like what kind of capsule, or if you have like a not a like, you know what I mean? Because I know there's different types of multivitamins where it's like, you know, a tablet, or like, does that
Mhm.
matter in terms of how it's digested? Do we have any research on that you would know of offhand? Like, what would be more beneficial for someone?
So it depends on the, again, the most of the population is going to be healthy enough in order to just take a pill, in encapsulated enterically coated pill form.
Okay.
Um, if you're at the doctor and you are known to have some sort of, let's say, like bowel resection, or like something that you like, clearly the doctor is like, you'll know.
Oh,
Like you've
totally.
been
Yep.
hospitalized for this.
I see.
Then they'll be giving you liquid forms of it so that it's more readily absorbed,
I see. You're not doing
higher
as
up
much
in your
digesting.
GI.
I see.
Right.
Okay. Totally. No, that totally makes sense. So it's basically, at the end of the day, if you want to have an insurance policy, which I think why someone would take a greens powder is
Mhm.
really because other than their favorite influencer sells it, they want to be healthier, right? I think that's kind of the general consensus as to why someone would take that. I don't know why else you'd be drinking something miserable tasting, right? But
Yeah.
you'd
And
probably
I
be
get
better
it.
suited to take a multivitamin though, right? If you'd
Oh,
want
absolutely.
to,
The
okay.
two are not the same. So a multivitamin is vitamins, whereas a greens powder, it may have vitamins. I haven't looked into this added to it. However, the greens powder itself is based on the theory that we would be extracting the antioxidant capacity of the vegetables and the fruits that we're getting. So it's
I
more of
see.
like an anti-inflammatory, antioxidant kind of process versus a vitamin, which is a necessity to our functional metabolic health.
Totally. I don't think people know that though. I think that's huge. I think people don't, you know what I mean? They think they're just
Right.
like, it's just, I don't know, it's making me healthier, right? Like, it's like,
Right.
well,
It's
it could be just,
vegetables, it's
yeah,
vitamins.
yeah, it just could be wasting. You could just literally be wasting your money. So it's like, if you're going to spend the money on it, if you have the money, probably save your money on the greens powders, reds powders, and put it towards a multivitamin, if anything, or put the money towards good wholesome foods and a good nutrition plan overall. I think that's kind of the big one there. So is there any other things you wanted to mention on that before we move on to another good one here, which relates very well?
Uh,
I think that was
I
good
guess
though.
the point to reiterate, make sure you're not overdoing it on the fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. Things like green, like I just know that a lot of people overdo the vitamin A in our industry. And like, it's when your hands start turning orange, and I'm guilty of it myself. But like, if you're consuming a large amounts of like sweet potato,
Oh, okay.
and like sweet potato, pumpkin, carrots, all these orange vegetables, and then taking supplements and whatever it's in your pre-workout, like who knows where it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Additionally, just be mindful of that if you're considering adding more supplements. You don't want to hurt yourself.
Okay. Awesome. No, that's perfect. And if you did, like, for someone who's like, okay, well, what if I want to know for sure? You would just recommend going to your doctor and getting blood work done, essentially?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Especially since a lot of the population is deficient in vitamin D.
Okay.
Definitely get that double checked, because at the end, that's going to help too. You're going to want to supplement with that. It'll
Yeah,
increase your mood.
not everyone's in Florida like you. Some of us live in Wisconsin, where it's really, really beautiful in the winter here.
Yeah, I used to post all the time, like
Yeah, you
getting my
know.
daily D.
Yeah, actually, I used to take a, and I wonder if this helps. It was like a droplet form of vitamin D, and it was called Daily D. It was great marketing.
Yeah.
Does that matter? I was gonna say, if it's a liquid form, is that common with vitamin D, or is that something that would mess with things? You know what I mean? It was like a little
Just like
droplet.
I said earlier, yeah, it's not going to make if pill form is fine. I take a pill form.
Okay, gotcha. No, that's perfect. Well, no, that's awesome. Okay, thank you, because that's, like we said, I think both of us, and I see it just so often where people are like, oh, yep, like taking my green supplements, and the rest of their diet's just a catastrophe, and you're just like, oh, smacking my face right here against the wall. But
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, another good one. So this is another common one where people are like, maybe there's experiencing some digestive issues, and obviously that can be a range of things, but the one fix all, right? I'm just going to get a probiotic, Dasha. What's the benefits? What's the drawbacks? How do I know if a probiotics can even help me? Would you recommend someone taking one? And I want to first preface this by saying this is a great intro to this, people, because I literally, how long ago is this? Maybe over a year ago now?
A
Maybe like
year
a year
ago,
and a half?
yeah.
Yeah. I reached out to Dasha and I was like, hey, I don't even know why we got on the subject, but somehow I told her that I was taking a probiotic along with my other daily multivitamins, and she's like, just stop taking it. And I'm like, what? Like, and she's like, just stop taking it and see what happens. Because obviously I'm taking it. I wasn't actually having any digestive issues. Again, it was that insurance policy. I'm like, what can't hurt, right? Good bacteria in the gut, yay. And she goes, just stop taking it, see what happens. And I'll tell you, absolutely nothing happened, which is exactly what you want. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
My digestion was just fine. Like, it didn't all of a sudden, go to craziness and go down the deep end or anything. It was exactly the same. So I think that's funny, and I think it's a very good way of knowing, like, hey, it didn't really change anything at all. Literally nothing at all. So But if someone
Yeah.
was having digestive issues and they're like, hey, like
Mhm.
this seems like it could help me, right? I know
Mhm.
like even like naturally occurring probiotics and like Greek yogurt and stuff like that obviously is going to help me, or kimchi, like things, stuff like that, where it's like
Mhm.
naturally occurring. Why can't I take
Mhm.
a supplement?
Okay, that's a really great question, and I I love the fact that you're so willing to share that story because it's so true, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, they have no problems, just like the greens powders. They're like, oh well, I'll just take it, and you're like,
Yep.
okay, well, why are you taking it in the first place?
Exactly.
And there's a lot of research behind probiotics. Probiotics are great. Don't get me wrong. I love probiotics, but I believe there's enough research right now that we can identify specific strains to specific symptoms. So for example, if I'm taking if I'm suffering with constipation, I want to take a probiotic strain that has been researched to specifically help with constipation. Because guess what? There are probiotic strains that specifically help for diarrhea. So why would I take that strain instead of the one that's going to help me and my symptoms? So that's something to look out for. And there's a great guide that's open to the public. It's called usaprobioticguide.com, and it kind of takes all that research and puts it into one chart for you. So for example, for IBS, to get things going, Activia, yep, that yogurt on the market, congratulations, they have actually been verified and approved to treat symptoms of constipation and
Oh,
irritable bowel syndrome. Yeah, things like Align, you've probably heard of. That's very similar, has been shown to help with IBS symptoms. On the other side, something like Traveler's Diarrhea, Florastore, maybe you've heard of them. That would be a good product for traveler's diarrhea, like when you're on the go and you're traveling out of the country, and that moment happens, because it's gonna happen.
yep.
If
Yep. We all know it.
and right, and then there's other ones like El Rhamnos, which is what Culturelle is made up of. It's the antibiotic associated diarrhea. So if you're having symptoms of diarrhea after you take antibiotics, Culturelle is a great place to start. There are also, although there are no specific probiotics for athletic performance, there are certain strains of bacteria that can help to reduce lactic acid production.
Really?
And yep, and those have been studied briefly. There's not verified, I don't believe, in humans yet, but it's starting to emerge. Certain strains can help with things like that. And so, probiotics is an evolving field. There's more that we don't know than we know right now. But what I can say is definitely look up that usaprobioticguide.com if you're suffering from one of these symptoms and you need some help. A lot of times people come to me with constipation, and what I will say is you don't necessarily need probiotics to help with whatever you're suffering from, whether that be constipation or diarrhea, because
Dun
at the end
dun
of
dun.
yeah
That's
at
what
the
they
end
didn't
of the
want to hear.
at the end of the day, most likely it's something in your diet or your diet history, or like your bile acids aren't being secreted properly, or your stomach acids. It could be due to your dieting history and slowed GI motility, which could then be linked to hypothyroidism. Like there's so many other underlying factors, and establishing that root cause is going to be
Key.
really important. Instead of like throwing a probiotic on it and being like, well, that's good for today.
Well, totally.
um,
And I'm sure even like the ones that like you're gonna buy, I know the one literally I was buying, I think was like $14 or something on Amazon, where it's like, I think you told me, you were like, yeah, the one like most of them that you're probably gonna buy are gonna be expensive, and it could obviously depend on the strain too, but like you're not buying, the one you need for one, and it's also you're buying the low end of the barrel of like, just something that's probably, whatever the cheapest form of it is. Who knows what strain it even was? I have no idea. I couldn't even tell you. And that's where it's like, example A of like just taking it for, an Adol, putting a Band-Aid on things.
right. And I think the one that I was telling you about was back then, the most researched strain was called VSL number 3. And I
Okay.
think that strain sold for like $75 a jar of like 30 days or 15 days. Like,
Wow.
but it goes to show that's how effective it is probably.
When you use it for the right purpose though, that's, I think, the key.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
totally.
Exactly. For the right timing, right purpose, things like that. But
Okay.
anyways,
Well, that's great.
that's,
And so basically you'd say, go to that website, usaprobiotic.com. That's a big one, just to kind of help your cause and like kind of give yourself some more backing based on what symptoms you are maybe having.
yep.
But also it could be the underlying diet itself where that needs to be probably the first thing you look at. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I think it's just, that's the foundation rather than, again, putting a Band-Aid over things. And so if someone was just saying like, okay, maybe if I want to incorporate more naturally occurring ways of getting probiotics into my diet. I know I mentioned like Greek yogurt, and I know you mentioned like Activia and that sort of thing. So how would someone do that other than, the little things that I mentioned? Is there any others that you'd throw in there as far as just helping your cause and digestion wise? Because that would help you, right? That's going to be beneficial, or is that something that kind of depends as well on your symptoms?
So this is another really good and common question that I get. The thing to remember with probiotics is the idea is that you're going to be basically at this point, hopefully you've gone through removing your bad bacteria and now you're trying to replace and reinoculate good bacteria. Don't try and reinoculate good bacteria if the bad bacteria isn't gone, right? Then that part of that process is, again, removing those foods and triggers that we talked about earlier that are causing the symptoms to begin with. But the point of the probiotic is to, again, reinoculate. And in order to do that, you have to have a pretty decent, hefty dose of these colony forming units of the bacteria that you're taking in. And if you are to go from 0 to 100, it'll likely cause some issues. So a lot of times people will taper up to like a probiotic dosage, but that's in pill form.
Okay.
Now, when we talk about foods, like fermented foods, we have to realize that those aren't necessarily the same concentrated dosage as a pill form. And a lot of the quote unquote probiotics that are added to foods, I know like bars now, this is a separate subject as well, but bars now have probiotics and you're like, okay, how does this granola bar have probiotics in it?
Yeah.
Right? It's actually a spore-based probiotic and fungi, and I can go into that separately, but the fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, things like that, what the research shows is that it's not necessarily good for changing long term your bacteria, right? It's not going to inoculate like more colonies of this good bacteria. What it does do is that the bacteria that's in those fermented foods helps to break down the meal that you're eating at the same time. So let's say you take which, by the way, like I think a serving of kombucha is actually only like a quarter of the bottle or half of the bottle. So whenever people are drinking the whole thing, it's just excess and not really doing anything, because again, it's the small amounts of bacteria that you ingest with a meal, highlight, underline, bold, with a meal, will help to break down the nutrients in that meal itself, because you're giving it good bacteria to break down the meal that you're eating at that time and extract the nutrients. And again, we talked about the digestive system and how to get the bacteria to transform the compounds to get into the bloodstream. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So these fermented foods can then extract the nutrients more optimally and provide more aid in the digestion process. However, they're not going to stay there and colonize and create new good bacteria. That's not what fermented foods are necessarily doing. That's more of what the probiotic pill would be doing.
Okay, totally. That totally makes sense. So it's kind of almost like think of it like an army. It's like you're sending in the reinforcements when you got the pill, because it's like you're sending a lot more of it, because it's probably a more drastic of problem rather than someone who's maybe just incorporating some more fermented foods because they may be like someone like me, maybe
helping
not
them to
just
right,
digest
helping you to digest the food and extract the main key with fermented foods that I want people to remember is that it's extracting nutrients. That's what it's doing. It's helping you to get the vitamins and the minerals out of the food that you're eating, because the bacteria is helping to break down those chemical components.
Okay, totally. So it's just helping the cause all around and helping you absorb overall. So that
Right.
That totally makes sense. So it's like all on board with the fermented foods. Can you overdo that? Is that something you can overdo, like where it would cause negative
Absolutely.
effects? Interesting.
Absolutely. Well, not in all people, but I
Certain
mean,
people.
in certain people, the lactic acid production of the bacteria can cause gassing, bloating, and
Oh,
burping,
okay.
and things like that, like digestive distress. So if you find yourself having those symptoms after drinking kombucha or having some kimchi, it's fine. You just probably don't need, you can go around digestion in a natural form.
I see. Totally. Well, no, exactly. And that makes sense because I think that's where a lot of people think like I was thinking, where it's like more is better, like I'm gonna help my cause by doing more of it. Okay, totally. No, that's awesome. And is there anything you wanted to kind of like sum that up with as far as the probiotic side of things at all?
Again, probiotics are a great thing if you need them. And identifying the root cause is going to be your number one factor. Probiotics, again, are a supplement. They are only if you aren't able to do it on your own. So first identify the root cause and then go into the supplementation. I go a lot into this in my course on gut health with Lacey. She does the thyroid section, I do the gut health section, but I
Okay.
can talk more about that later
Yeah.
if anyone's interested.
100%.
But yeah.
Okay. No, that's perfect. And I have one question that kind of relates to all of that combined. So I've heard in the past that when you blend, like for like a smoothie, for instance, so when you're blending a whole bunch of different things together like that, when
I've
it
heard
comes,
of this one.
does that change how that digests?
Oh, I've heard about this one, right? And
Yeah.
then no, my favorite one is like I can't blend my protein powder in my smoothie maker. But don't worry, I just made my protein pancakes and I heated up all my protein and it's fine. Okay, so
People say that. I've never heard that one. That's funny.
you haven't heard this?
No. So
They
they
think
don't
that
think they can
like
put it in a smoothie. They don't put protein powder in a smoothie with all the other stuff.
or collagen. I've heard it with collagen specifically. They're like it'll break up the collagen if you put it in because it's so fine. Okay, that makes absolutely no sense.
Oh, no,
to me.
Dasha, people say that with, bulletproof coffee. That's 100% what people say. So they say that when you put, okay, so like it's like, the MCTs, your coffee, whatever, all that, the butter, they say when you're mixing it, so like, because most people make it in a blender, because a lot of people put collagen in it as well, they say that you can't, like, you don't just lay on the button. You have to do like little spurts.
Pulses.
Yeah, because otherwise, if you do too many, then exactly what you just said happens, where the collagen breaks down. It's like, what is it? Just disintegrate? Like, what? That doesn't even make sense. It just evaporates into the air. Like, how does that even logically, right? Like,
I mean, it really baffles my mind. And honestly, like a lot of these things, like granted, that makes sense. Like, yeah, sure, I guess that makes sense. Maybe like the fat molecules absorb and
okay.
emulsify the collagen or something like that. But like again, at the end of the day, why are we so hyper focused, first of all, about getting in collagen with MCT oil? Like, let's just step back a second. Like, why are we even doing this?
I fast. I drink my bulletproof, and then I eat one meal a day. And I'm loving life, Dasha. Okay, so just let me be.
I mean, hey,
my pulses.
If that works for you, who am I to say that that's not the way to go? Like, if that works for you, great. But to be so hyper focused and so obsessed with something like that is also not healthy, and kind of goes to show that you're probably more type A perfectionist that really needs to learn to just step back a little bit and relax. Yeah.
So to the smoothie point though, I'm good eating my smoothies. I'm absorbing my nutrients still.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're absorbing whatever. Okay. If you blend your bananas, I'm pretty sure that you'll still get blended bananas at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that actually, and that kind of did make sense to me a little bit, because I was kind of thinking it from like the side of like, well, the greens powders, like maybe it changes how our digestive system, absorbs it because it's not in its natural form, right? No, is there any merit to that?
No, because you have to remember that people live off of IV drips of nutrition of just pure amino acid and um, dextrose compounds and fat compounds. So I think you're fine.
Okay. No, that totally makes sense.
But don't hold me to it tomorrow when you blend your banana and
I don't absorb it, and I don't absorb it. Well, I'm just wasting all that fruit then. Wasting all that fruit, spinach, all that stuff. That's a lot of money.
Oh my gosh. What
But
a
I feel good
thing.
though. I do feel good. So maybe it's the placebo, but it works as long as it's working, right? That totally makes sense.
No, it is working. It's because the blend, it's working. Trust me, it's working. Your bananas are getting into your system.
No, that makes sense. I do have one question with the smoothies though. I have heard someone talk about how smoothies, and this is obviously so black and white, but they're bad because they spike your glycemic index so high with such a large amount of, especially if you do a large amount of fruit at once. What is your general consensus on that if you don't obviously have a predisposition like diabetes or something like that where you need to worry?
If you don't need to worry, then you just answered your own question.
Unless you feel tired after it and don't want to.
Yeah, like if it's causing you to have high blood glucose, then crash, then yes, I would say it's a much better option to create a balanced smoothie. Overall, keeping your blood sugars maintained will reduce your risk of getting diabetes because you're managing your blood glucose levels equally. However, I do understand that in this industry, that ain't gonna flow very well. Yeah. Because we do need that quick absorbing recovery shake sometimes, but you do want to balance that out with a balanced meal perhaps soon after, before the crash happens, so that you can prevent any dips. So what I would suggest is get in that juice or whatever you need, and then 30 minutes, an hour later, have the full meal to prevent anything like that.
Okay. So it's basically like if you're someone, especially who's trying to like, like someone who's like a perfect example where that would happen is like, all right, I'm putting a massive shake, because they're trying to gain weight, and it's like, all right, easy calories. That's where that would be, the case. But if someone's listening to this, one of my clients' general population or something, that's like, just be more limited with how big of a smoothie and how big of a serving size you're eating, essentially, is what you're saying.
What I'm saying is either make a balanced smoothie or make a non-balanced smoothie, but have a balanced meal soon after to prevent any sort of wonky blood sugars.
Okay, perfect.
So so make your smoothie with peanut butter and oats and protein and everything like that, or don't.
Totally.
But then eat.
No, I hear you. Okay. No, that's perfect. That's good. No, because I was actually really wondering about the smoothie thing. As funny as that is, I know you're like laughing at me, but I was seriously curious because I was thinking about that. I've been eating smoothies more lately, so I was like, I better be absorbing these, but I do.
Good.
Feel good.
Good.
All right. So I want you to talk a little bit more about your course, and then we won't get too much in depth with it, but I want to plug your the blog post you did on intuitive eating and mindful eating and kind of give some direction there, because I think both of those resources are really, really good, and they kind of segue both with all the things we're discussing, because setting that baseline and foundation with your diet and being able to do that with a mindful approach, I think is super key. So tell them a little bit more about the course and kind of what that would entail first if they're looking to learn more about this kind of stuff we were discussing.
Absolutely. So on my, you can go to fitwithdasha.com and you go to my blog, and I have a bunch of free PDFs, resources, everything from glyphosate information to intuitive. Like literally there's everything on there. Free training programs, free recipes, free ebooks, like whatever you need. It's on there. One of them is Returning to Intuitive Eating, which I just published recently with the help of my friend Abby. And we go through exactly what intuitive eating is. And for those of you who don't know, it's based on our natural eating habits. Basically, it encourages us to eat when we're hungry, stop when we're full, eat mindfully, chew our foods well. It eliminates completely all food rules, restrictive diets, and has no weight attached to it. So there's no stigma around weight loss, weight gain. It's just about eating based on our normal eating habits, no matter if this meal is more than my caloric needs or less than my caloric needs. It's what my body feels it needs right now, whatever nutrients that may be, whether it be an avocado or a donut. Okay. So this was created by, their names were Evelyn Tribble and Elise Resch. I think that's how you pronounce it. They're two registered dietitians from California. And they created this concept, and there's been a lot of research and books where they wrote their book on it. And there's been some sort of approaches that have been used in research similar to this. So basically the principles, they have 10. I can read them all off to you, but you can also go to the PDF and learn more about each one specifically, but just briefly, I'll run through them. The first is to reject diet mentality. The second, honor your hunger. The third, make peace with food. Challenge the food police. Respect your fullness. Discover the satisfaction factor. Honor your cravings without using food. Respect your body. Exercise and feel the difference. Honor your health. So eating intuitively requires a lot of mindfulness and thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So on top of that, on top of going through each of those specific principles in the PDF, I also go through a mindfulness exercise, which we can do together right now if you're interested. But it's
ready.
a worksheet. It's a worksheet that you can also print off of my website and go through and sit down while you're eating to help you kind of understand intuitive eating a little bit more.
Okay.
So I'll ask you these questions, and if you're open to answering them, you can. Otherwise, I'll just skip through, or you can lie. Okay, the first one. How hungry am I?
On a scale?
Mm-hmm. How hungry am I?
Right now.
Truly think about it. Are you?
Honestly, probably not very hungry, 3.
Okay.
10 being starved, I'm dying of hunger. 1 being I'm
Okay.
full. I'm gonna be a 4. I could eat, but only because I know I need to.
Okay, and what foods are you craving? Or lately have you been craving?
Honestly, I've been a lot more balanced lately where I haven't really had any crazy cravings. I've been trying to not eat out as much, and that's been helping me. And yeah, I've been having more of a baseline of good foods. I've actually been craving those smoothies because I've been starting my day with one of those.
Good. Okay, so you're craving nutrients. You're craving
feeling good.
Fresh fruit. Yes.
Yep, feeling good.
So are you feeling bored, stressed, or sad in this moment?
No, I feel good. I feel like I just learned a lot.
Good. Right? About how you're
conversation
feeling.
we had.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's imagine that you're having your smoothie.
Okay.
The part of the process is, what do you taste, smell, see, hear, feel? And you're going to laugh, right? You're going to be like, how am I hearing my food right now? But you have to remember, think about a candy bar. You crinkle up the wrapper, it shreds, it opens. The crispness of the actual bite that you take, those are all part of your sensory systems that entertain how you eat. So by being more mindful of all of these things, like the smell, what you see, what you feel, the comfort, is it bringing you comfort or is it bringing you disgust and you're only doing it for a certain reason?
Oh, that's so interesting.
You feel like doing something else, but your mind is restricting you. You're having these diet rules.
Yeah.
And then the last question is, how does this food make you feel? So going through the exercise is really, really helpful on a day-to-day basis. Maybe you only do it once every few days, but it's good to bring yourself awareness. What food rules have I created for myself? A lot of people don't even realize, do you drink your calories? Oh, I could never. Okay, well, why not? And then by thinking about these things, you're like, hold on, that's so silly. When I was 5 and I intuitively was like, I need juice right now because I have low blood sugar. Did our minds overcomplicate it and overthink it? No, we just went with what we felt was right. And getting back to that feeling of understanding true hunger and satiety cues is what intuitive eating is all about.
I think that's huge. And I think what you're saying about the sensory thing, that for instance, honestly, I find so much satisfaction in watching it blend. I love that. That's my
Yeah,
favorite. I'm not even kidding you.
that's
I
part
love
of
that.
it.
The frozen fruit when it like blends. Oh, it's so satisfying. And like the little things, like if I mess up the ratios a little bit, you're totally right. Like I can smell, like one day I forgot bananas and I literally had bananas. I just forgot. And I was like drinking it and I'm like, this doesn't taste right. And then eventually I was like, I forgot bananas. Like, it's like, it does, like, you know, when you really, without even thinking about it, it makes more of a difference. And especially with that, because you're like thinking about, okay, you know, not like a candy bar, like, all right, how are they making this in the factory? It's like, oh, where do these fruits
Hmm.
come from? You know, like, and that's a big thing about
Hmm.
the mindfulness, I know as well, because it kind of helps you with making decisions on what you're eating, and also both sides of it. You know, when you should go and enjoy
Hmm.
yourself as well, or have a candy bar. But
Yeah,
I
like
love
there is a time and a place for the candy bar. Like don't get me wrong, there is a time and place, but just being mindfully aware, like, yes, like this is bringing me so much joy and comfort, and embracing that and realizing that you can have that candy bar a little bit like every single day of your life. I know a lot of patients that I see, oftentimes they struggle with um, understanding the balance
Mhm.
between that restrictive mentality, like I can't cook rice for the week. And I was like, why can't you cook rice? And he was like, well, then I'd have leftovers, so I just throw it all away. And I was like, hold on. I was like, hold on. You're throwing away your rice because the next day you can't look at it in the fridge? Like, come on, people.
Yeah,
Knowing that you can have that little bit of cup of rice every single day in moderate portions, um, embracing that mindful eating, it'll get you so much closer and to your goals and farther away from that restrictive, detrimental, stressful, cortisol prone mentality that's not helping your diet in the first place or life.
totally. I think that's huge, because I think you're totally right, where someone, even someone where they maybe start with you, I'm sure that you have this happen, where even though you are going to maybe put them on a, you know, an intuitive eating approach, and you're going to give them the tools in the background, at the beginning they might feel apprehensive, or like, oh, like, you know, here we go, time to dive in, as if everything's about to change, you know, because I have to go, you know, what am I going to have to restrict? You know, they think like, they automatically go into that mindset. And I think that's so common with the world we live in, because I think people do know they need to make a healthier choice. But I think the way they always go about that is the normal human instinct of like, what can I do quickly? What's going to get us there fast? You know, and it's like their heart or their head's in the right place, but they're not executing it in the right direction in terms of that longevity, or both from a mental health standpoint as well as physical health. And I think that's probably a very huge aspect of this, probably the biggest aspect of the intuitive eating.
Absolutely.
Totally. So okay. So I will definitely have everything linked, as far as how to get in contact with Dasha specifically, or if you're interested in the course, and then also just all of the free content that she has. I don't think you mentioned it. What does that course entail if they're wanting to do that? Because I know that's like very in depth with. I know you mentioned thyroid issues as well, and then also, is that like for like hypothyroid, or just thyroid issues in general, or kind
In
of explain
general.
that. Okay. And then you do the gut health side of it. So that's kind of
Yep.
the gist of the course. Okay.
Right. So there are 12 modules. 6 of them are thyroid health. 6 of them are gut health. They go into distinguishing the root causes of any of your thyroid or gut problems. They teach you about the nutrition part of it, the physiology, the basics, understanding differences between diagnoses, treatment options, symptoms, lab values. I mean, there's so much endless value in the course. You'll literally learn everything from the basic physiology, nutrition, how to basically solve any of the problem you identified by yourself through whether that be supplementation or nutrition, stress, differences, things like that. It all goes through everything. And then we also give you things like a private Facebook community, a 4-week workout program, recipe ebooks, meal prep ebooks, journal templates, symptom trackers. I mean, there's so many,
Okay.
literally,
Awesome.
things that are also in the course. And if you've ever heard of Dr. Jolene Brighton, she's one of the leading experts in women's medicines, and her, along with Melissa Groves and Emily Kyle, which are also evidence-based practitioners and registered dietitians, they also have reviewed the course and approved it and have been promoting it as well. So it's a
Awesome.
really great resource for a lot of people, and hopefully it'll help you all learn about your own root cause so that you can take the information and whatever life throws at you, be able to solve the problem on your own.
Awesome. Awesome. And you can find that course through your website as well.
It's exposingtheroot.teachable.com, and we can add that to the link of things.
Perfect. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll have both of those down there for anyone who's interested in learning more. So honestly, I think like I said, this was a great learning experience for me as well, and I knew I was gonna learn a lot, so I was excited. But I think anyone listening, this clarifies a lot on some of the hot topics or things that people don't even realize, they might be wasting their money on, or just might not know. And I think that's the biggest thing. So this was great, and I really appreciate it, and I know everyone listening definitely appreciates it as well. So thank you, Dasha.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Joe, for having me on. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I loved all the questions you asked.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I appreciate everyone listening. Make sure you do subscribe, and also give this podcast a like. And if you guys have any questions, drop them below. Otherwise, shoot us a message, and we can definitely have Dasha back on if you guys have any other topics you'd like her to cover, because she's definitely a wealth of knowledge, which I appreciate. So thank you again, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Take it easy.